Heart of Darkness. Considered a masterpiece and controversial, this book will show the effect of colonialism it had over colonialized and the colonizers themselves. First of all, something about the author. Heart of Darkness is written by Joseph Conrad, a British author of Polish descent, in the year 1899. And it has many similar aspects to author's own life. Let's see what it is about then. To give you a glance, Heart of Darkness retells the story of Marlowe's job as an ivory transporter down the Congo. Through his journey, Marlowe develops an intense interest in investigating Kurds, an ivory procurement agent. And Marlowe is shocked upon seeing what the European traders have done to the natives. Joseph Conrad's exploration of the darkness, potentially inherent in all human hearts, inspired the 1979 film Apocalypse Now, although the setting was moved to Vietnam. Now, time for summary. The story starts with the protagonist and our narrator, Charles Marlowe, sitting in a ship named Nellie, anchored on the Thames River, telling his fellow travelers about his experiences of the Congo state. But here, the important thing to remember is that there's another person over the ship apart from Marlowe and other people who retells this story while Marlowe recounts it to them. So, a story within a story. Also, the interesting thing is that this is a fictional retelling of Conrad's, the author's own adventures in the depths of Congo River, through Marlowe. So, working on his ambition, Marlowe gets a captainship of the deep and dark place of Congo River in Europe. He sets out his journey to the place and after arriving gets shocked witnessing the state the natives are in. His ideals will gradually throughout the book change, or rather say he would start realizing the true nature of this dark and deep place. The natives here are not treated as humans, rather animals left to rot after they die, chained and forcefully employed to do heavy and hazardous tasks. No care is given at all. In the outer station, he meets accountant and after trekking for long hours, meets the manager of the ivory trading company there. He starts hearing of this charismatic and powerful Kurt's character ever since he arrived at the outer station, of how he's managing and collecting most ivory in the land by himself from the inner parts of the jungle, and that has made him mad, and that he would need immediate treatment because he's critically ill right now. After realizing how the manager fears of his position being taken by Kurds, and that's why doesn't want that the help reaches in time, he further gets to know that his steamboat has been deliberately tampered with. Yeah, it's broken. After waiting for a couple of months in the central station, equipment arrives and the steamboat gets fixed. With manager and Englishmen he met along the way and few others including the natives regarding as the slaves, Marlowe sets out to move to inner station where Kurds is right now, is residing there. The journey is slow and excruciating. The fog makes the journey more arduous and difficult. Yet, somehow, they finally were just a couple of miles away from getting off from the ship, meaning from the destination, but suddenly they were attacked by the indigenous people there, and their helmsman dies on the way. After dealing with problem when they finally lands onto the inner station where Kurds resides, Malu meets a Russian who is so passionated by Kurds and has helped him while he was there. Eventually, Malu meets Kurtz and realizes he's extremely ill and need to go back to civilization immediately. While being there, Malu realizes that Kurtz is a grandeur figure, like everybody said. He's practically worshipped by the natives as well. And he also is reluctant to go back, or even the natives are reluctant to let him go back. Despite this, there are lots of things Malu understands and Kurz that are so outright wrong and disgusting. Yet after meeting him, Malu not only starts introspecting himself, also Kurtz, and he realizes how big is the effect that this colonialism had on them. Not just the colonizers, but the colonized as well. So much so that its own supposed benefactors plus the beneficiary have to go through such a cruel transition. Kurtz is aboard with all the crew and manager and Malu, though he takes his last breath on the journey back. After handing some letters and documents to Malu and the iconic words he said at last, the horror, Kurtz dies on the way back and is buried offshore. 1 year down the line in Europe, after recovering from an illness himself, Malu sets off to meet Kurt's intended, that is, his fiancée. Hands over the letters and a portrait of hers given by Kurtz on his last day to him. On asking what his last words were, Malu lies to the lady that it was her name he called when he died, and afterwards gets disgusted on this lie. Coming on to the themes, there's a myriad of themes in the book, really, but some of the most important ones I'll mention here and explain it as well. First, imperialism. The main idea of the Heart of Darkness is that imperialism is a force of evil that corrupts men, consuming them with greed. In the Congolese jungle, the moral character of colonizers is tested as there's no authorities to stop them from violence except their own self restraint. Biggest example? Kurds. Second, darkness. Malu sees darkness in the practices of imperialism, though the book maintains the racist implication that it is the uncivilized land and people that led to Europeans' corruption, alienation, and madness. Kurt's isolation in a remote area contributes to his madness. Malu's experiences in Africa likewise cause him to feel alienated from other men. Chaos and order. Colonialism's false sense of order is contrasted with the chaos of the ivory trade and of African society in general, as Malu sees it. The Heart of Darkness title refers not only to a physical location inside Africa, but also to a state of mind and the grim consequences of imperialism, the European world takeover during the 15th century, 20th centuries, through 20th centuries. So, yeah, Conrad was into metaphors. Talking about critics, although many critics have supported the publication, other critics such as Chinua Achebe, best known literary critic of the book, along with another critic, Memory Chirere, find many faults with Conrad's stylistic imagery. Achebe scrutinized the novella on the grounds of racism. He calls attention to many examples where Conrad subjected Africa and its people to racist illustrations and descriptions. One instance of imagery that has stuck with many critics of Heart of Darkness describes the suffering of the Africans. Near the trees, two more bundles of acute angles sat with their legs drawn up. Many have pointed out that this caricature and pose of the African native infantilizes him and takes away his humanity. That's it for this video. Adios.